We've been tasked over the last year with building a brand from zero awareness to hopefully high levels of awareness and usage. And so we've done a lot of interesting marketing across traditional and non-traditional, digital and offline. And so I was actually really happy to see this event focus on building brand digitally, because that's something that's near and dear to my heart and something we've had a lot of fun with as I thought about the story that we had to tell here. I had a good time just thinking through what have been the most interesting ways that we've built our brand digitally. What are some of the things that would hopefully resonate with the audience in terms of thought-provoking ideas that they might not have already thought about. Google in particular is something that is a very established habit for people. So we did a lot of research to understand, what was driving that loyalty. Was it habit? Was it preference? Were there areas of unmet needs in search? So we could understand both from a product perspective as well as a brand perspective, what's the role that another search engine can play. And so what that resulted in for us was understanding that while people do use an entrenched competitor, that a lot of that is just habit, and there's certainly some loyalty and preference there, but there's also room and recognition that I would try something different, particularly if it offered me some value that I'm not seeing here. And also even just, there's kind of like an aha moment for people where once you start asking them like, what more would you like from search? They kind of realize like, oh, I guess search could be more than this habit that I'm used to. There's kind of two pieces if you think about Bing, right? So the product itself is highly visual, uses photography and colors, and we try to bring in images into our results in a way that we think is a bit more intuitive, but is also a stark contrast from Google, which is white with blue links, very little imagery. So particularly on a product basis, very intentional as far as just creating not differentiation for the sake of differentiation, but trying to just think through what are the insights that consumers are telling us? What are their unmet needs? What are the things that they might not be aware of? And so visual differentiation and organization of our results was one big area, but the homepage imagery came from more of a place of an emotional connection, which is, when people go to search, they're often in a very explicit mindset to find something. But that's often in a sort of exploratory state of mind. And so how can we tap into that? And so part of that for us has been through the homepage. We have little hot spots with kind of like little trivia facts. And it's been one of the things that has resonated the most with consumers as they really enjoy that. They look forward to that. In the campaign itself, we did go with this black kind of brand in the campaign. I think in a lot of ways we were trying to be just unique with our brand, and that meant not necessarily using the Microsoft blue. It was really establishing our own identity. I think it sort of happened to be black versus white, but that wasn't necessarily where it came from. In terms of taking risks, I think we've done a few things. So I think we invested enough in sort of known wins that we were able to sort of from the get-go understand that there was a percentage of our budget that we were just going to be comfortable with trying different things. And that was at both at a all-up campaign level, so something like branded integration versus TV and digital. In a way, all of brand integration was one giant test, but then also within online, within offline, having some discrete funds that we felt comfortable enough meeting our goals without those funds that we could just play with that money. So I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is if you can just explicitly plan for innovation and testing and not be dependent on that and just be able to just have kind of some free space to work with. I think that's kind of number one. On the measurement side, there's a lot of really cool marketing ideas out there, but without an understanding of how to think about them, and also apples to apples basis to other pieces of your campaign, I think it's just hard over time to get continued funding for those. So measurement has been a very kind of lockstep piece of the plan for us. And Compete has absolutely been a big role, or has played a big role in that for us. So Compete helps us both, managing our all-up market share, but in terms of innovation, we have a proprietary, I guess, panel through Compete that allows us to look at pre and post behaviors of these different campaigns and things that we try. And it very much helps us understand, particularly for things that are less measurable, the impact that those discrete activities had. To me, I think it comes down to being authentic. So I think Jeff raised some great points just about making sure that you think about the heart of who you are and not stray too far from that. And I think that's very important in terms of your product offerings, but that you can also bring that to life in your brand. So if you think about your brand voice and what that means and how to connect with your audience, doing that in a way that ideally is first and foremost authentic, but building on top of that does drive either some emotional connection, or I talked in my session about just building relevance and value. So ideally you can kind of do all three of those, but those are some grounding principles that we use.